All right. Hey, folks. Welcome back to another episode of Artist Stories of Middle Georgia. I'm your host, Victor Rigoli. And today's episode is brought to you by Cornerstone Academy of Art and Design. I just wanted to put a plug in for them today. But I have a great guest on the podcast today. And it's amazing that I'm sure our paths have crossed because we go to these first night art things up in Macon. And I just want to welcome Deonna Hendrix to the podcast today. Deonna, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Victor. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, this is
Pretty
great.
morning.
We talked for 10 or 15 minutes there, just kind of chatting and finding out, how much we have in common and things that are going on in our backgrounds and that kind of thing. And I'm excited to have you. And I just want to I want to hear your story. Where does it begin? How did you get into art and your creativity? And I want you to talk about your art and what it is you create. I know that you teach there at CAD, which is great. Talk about that some as well. Put a plug in for CAD as well.
Absolutely.
So yeah, great.
Well, I didn't start out in visual art.
Okay.
I am kind of, I won't say triple threat, but I've visited. I started out in theater.
Oh,
And
okay.
I did that because my mother was a pretty incredible artist and had her own works. And she was a young mom and she was a sweetheart and I adored her. But she didn't pull me up in her lap. It was her little private Idaho. Art was her thing, her space. And
Okay.
whenever I did try on my own, she's a little hypercritical. We
Okay.
visited that later in life, so it's not like I
Okay.
have hard
Yeah.
feelings.
Yeah.
No, my mother was amazing. She has artwork all in kind of condos down in Florida. She could do every single medium except for watercolor.
Oh,
So
really?
what do you think Deonna did? Deonna
What?
said, "Oh, well, I'll work on some watercolor then
Right.
because Mama doesn't do that." And that was kind of how it was. I don't work in oils at all because that was her thing, and the smells kind
Really?
of
Yeah. I'm an oil painter, and so I
well, no, I
understand.
love
Yeah.
the smell, but
Yeah.
it still just kind of hurts my heart because I think about my mom
Oh, I
painting. And
understand.
she was very sweet. She'd say, "What do you think of this? How do you
Got
like this? What does it look like? Is it missing anything?" It's
Gotcha.
not that, it was just her private space. She was a really young mom, and it was just her thing it was all hers. And I love that
Right.
about her. So she pushed me theatrically. I did take a little bit of art in school. My art teacher was tragically killed in an automobile accident.
Oh,
Um,
no.
so I
Oh,
just
that's terrible.
merged. Oh, she was a young, wonderful woman.
Oh, wow.
And so I just merged more and more into theatrical arts. And that's where I stayed for decades.
Gotcha.
I wrote a little bit. And then I started writing creative nonfiction and poetry and was a professional storyteller so I could write and perform. I did that for 14 years, all in the metropolitan area of Atlanta and the southeastern United States. And
Okay.
I really, really enjoyed that. That brought me a lot. I could combine personal things, folklore, performance all together.
Right.
I was one of the co-founders of the Atlanta Literary Festival, which merged into what is now the Decatur Book Festival.
Okay. Okay.
So the first 3 or 4 years of that, it was the Atlanta Literary Festival. Another person that we tragically lost was the um, the head of everything, the visionary, and she passed away,
Oh,
and that's how it just kind of merged on.
okay.
So here I was doing all these other different things and just dabbling. I would just do some watercolor. My mother-in-law liked to play in the watercolors, and so we would paint together. My daughter is a brilliant artist,
Really?
and I mean, just but Mama put her in her lap
Uh-huh.
because that's a
There you
grandbaby.
go. There you
Grandbaby
go.
get in the lap.
Yeah. Was
That's
she
what
local? Is she in the Macon area too, or is she?
she is in Georgia though,
Oh,
and
okay.
so
Okay.
um, she I've lived the majority of my life. I grew up in Alabama, old enough to move away. Bye, Mama. See
Yeah.
you later.
Gotcha.
Moved as far out west as I could possibly go. And so I lived out west for a few years, North Dakota, California, Arizona, and then
Wow.
came back to Alabama for a little bit and then moved to Georgia. I moved to
Okay.
Georgia in 1990.
Okay.
I only moved away briefly a little bit, a couple of years in Florida, a year in North Carolina. And when we came back from North Carolina, after a little bit, I was tired of the city.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had lived up in the mountains for a minute. I love the mountains, but the mountains don't like city folk.
Uh-huh.
So it was lovely, and I went up there to write. My mom had passed away, and I
Okay.
thought I'm going to do some writing. She wrote poetry and had a newspaper column, very well rounded herself. And
Gotcha.
so I was really, really tired of it. And I went on a search and fell in love with Macon.
Okay.
I came down, and my husband had been transferred, and he was commuting. And I was like, you know what? Let me just go visit. And so I
Right.
would come down, and I would spend, Saturdays walking around downtown. I went to visit Macon and saw There's Something in the Water video at the time that Stephen Fulbright had done. Well, there was a whole parade of people, but
Right.
um, and I would just keep coming and driving around downtown and driving around Ingleside
Right.
and just all these little places. And I thought, this is lovely. And I'm walking downtown and I'm seeing, this was in 2013, right before our big boom of truly revitalizing downtown Macon.
Right. Yeah.
So it was before Newtown. And I got involved in a handful of things, and I thought it was going to be more storytelling. I
Mm-hmm.
worked a little bit with Spirits in October when I first got here because
Mm-hmm.
that's what I did.
Right.
And I met on my very first Friday out, Micah Gogan.
Oh, how about that?
My very first Friday out, I met Micah, and we were talking. And at that point in time, I was just doing some alcohol inks that I was making from scratch, some jewelry, some watercolor. And he said, I'm an intern at the 567, and I'll be leaving in just a few months. And I interned for Beth Smith. You should go and meet them and maybe start to do some stuff with them.
Right.
I did. And I spent 10 years pretty
Wow.
much with the 567. Beth was my mentor who really challenged me to dig deeper into visual art. And so we've come full circle, and now I work with her here too.
How
So I
about that?
spent all that time. I also went off and had my own studio, and I worked with Ampersand when they first started. And then when the Bamas left and Daniel took over, we were in the basement of the Children's Museum.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were resident artists there, and I taught kids classes and summer camps. I taught for Montessori for a bit after school, and then I taught during the school year to all ages.
Wow.
So that was a lot of fun. I got to watch some very talented artists come up out of
I'm
there.
sure.
And I
Yeah.
still have some of those that are now graduating or have graduated from high school that I get to see and see how they are flourishing. One of my favorite students is now one of Beth's students, and he's just amazing. He's been that way, and he's just like I don't know, freshman in high school, sophomore in high school,
Oh, wow.
and
Yeah.
he's incredible. So Beth just kept pushing. She'd give me homework. The next thing you know, I'm teaching quartz and canvas classes and maybe putting a little bit of artwork here and there,
Right.
and still doing my own little thing. And then I moved to another little studio, and then COVID happened.
Right.
But before COVID happened, I had a residency program in the Catskills that I was going to. So I purged my life, packed up all my stuff, moved to New York February of 2020.
Wow.
March of 2020, everything went kaput, and I was stranded in New York for 8 months.
Wow.
I could
Good
have stayed
grief.
a little longer, but room and board was still handled because it wasn't on me, and it was the way that they had to kind of do that because you couldn't leave.
Right.
And so I would do live from New York. It's Deonna teaching quartz and canvas in Macon
How
on
about that?
Facebook Live. So I was still
Wow.
doing some fun things, but it was a great time for me to reflect
Yeah.
and put some more effort into my own personal work. I'm a lover of trees and the
Mm-hmm.
ocean, so it's a conflict sometimes. So trees and seas are kind of what I do. And then I do a lot of abstract work.
Okay.
So if I can do abstract seas and trees, I really enjoy those things the most.
Gotcha.
And I like
Gotcha.
a lot of, I like texture
Uh-huh.
and finding ways to create texture with unconventional objects, adding things. This piece that's behind me, that's toilet paper that is providing the, yeah, toilet paper.
Really?
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
So there's just all kinds of cool things that you can do. And I think in teaching younger students, knowing that they can find art in anything,
Right. Right.
that they can take it and go, oh, keeping their attention. If we don't spark their interest in their creativity, their personal thoughts about art, then you're going to lose them.
That's right.
And that's why
That's
we
right.
have more STEM and less STEAM.
Yeah.
And I'm very much about keeping the arts in our schools.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not going to have those, at least we have opportunities like CAD
Yes.
where these kids can come and we're not focused on crafts. Not that
Right.
there's not a place
Right.
for that,
That's right. That's right.
but we're focusing on fundamentals. They have to learn all the hard stuff.
Right.
And if it's really for them, then they're gonna latch on and soak it up, and you're gonna quench their thirst for their knowledge for the arts.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
So I just kept spinning. I had some health issues, like quite a few. And, that can either do one thing. It can either give you a burst of creativity or it can completely hinder it. And I've
Right.
had both.
Right.
And in having both, when I've come out of where it stifled me, I came out going bursts. So I was surprised.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I worked on a series of work that was mostly seasoned trees with a lot of texture. And thought I was going to show it last year, and it just wasn't the right opportunity. So I have some other things in the works coming up, and that I can't talk about yet.
Okay. Okay.
But it's the fall season, so we get out there and do our cute little art markets and stuff. So I am
Right.
involved with a few of those. But that's kind of how I went from theater to writing
That transition.
to visual art. And
Right.
now I can go back and pick up and here and there. But visual art is really where my heart is. And
Right.
I just kind of think put it on the back burner in my life because, it was my mom's thing. And
Yeah.
before she passed away though, I made sure that she got to see some acrylic work.
Okay.
So it was like, look, Mom, it didn't skip me. We just
Right.
didn't nurture it. And
Right.
so that was a good thing. I'm really thankful that Beth really pushed that envelope.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think I would have done it otherwise. I've
Right.
had some great mentors. Shannon
Yeah.
Riddle's a good mentor for me. I love working with all these seasoned artists that started out when they were little kids.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
always learning something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
always learning something.
My motto is to be green and growing. And what that means is that, like a piece of fruit, it's growing, it's kind of green, it hadn't gotten ripe yet, right? And so it's growing, it's just getting bigger, it's maturing and everything. But what happens when it gets ripe, fully ripe, is when it's picked and it starts to rot. So you always want to be just green and growing and
I like
continuing to
that.
learn and to grow. And because you're either progressing or regressing, because if you stop and you kind of plateau, then you're not growing anymore. And you're right, you have to challenge yourself and step outside your comfort zone. So that kind of has a question here for you: is what in creating your art, what do you feel is the most challenging thing about creating your art?
I don't like to draw. I know it's a terrible thing. And you kind of have to sketch at least. And I tell my students even, okay, it's not Miss Deanna's favorite thing, but I will sit down and actually I'll do our lessons together. Look, Miss Deanna didn't like to do it either, but I'll do
Right,
it.
right. Yeah.
So composition can be tough for me when I have something in my head Because I tend to paint more out of my head. I'm trying to get better
Okay.
about painting what I see.
Okay.
I
Gotcha.
haven't
Yeah.
attempted plein air, but I think it's a lovely idea.
Right. Right.
But um, sketching things out, that
Hmm.
is, it's been a challenge for me off the cuff. And you know why that is, though, is that I didn't start out learning those fundamentals off the cuff. They
Right.
were not
Right.
they were
I can
not
understand
shown
that.
to me young. So I was kind of like, I'm reinventing the wheel. I had to go backwards and learn how to do things the right way.
Right.
And which makes me hopefully a better teacher to my young students. Well, even my older students. My oldest student was 80. Well, she wasn't 80 at the time. She's 80 now. Um, and she was like, no, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And then to watch them do these things. I love the students that are older that maybe have retired and they never got to it.
Right. Right.
Or they're like, no, I can't do it. I was like, sure you can.
Oh yeah.
I'm
Oh yeah.
I'm a prime example who did
Yeah.
not get serious
Yeah.
about art till I was 50.
Yeah.
And and that's all I've done. That is all I've done for the last 13 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it can happen. It can
It,
happen.
it can. Yeah. Thanks
So
for sharing.
that's my biggest struggle
Yeah. Yeah.
is sketching out compositions.
Right. What do you find most rewarding in creating your art?
Oh, I like instant gratification.
Hmm.
So for me, I work a lot with India ink and alcohol inks too.
Okay.
That's my fun part. Um, and so because it's a medium that dries quickly, which can also be a problem, but for me, I can work fast and I've got a finished piece, and I like
Right.
that. Watercolor's always done that for me too. People will say watercolor's so hard, but because that's what I focused on when I was younger, I just I had my own way of coming to terms with
Yeah.
how difficult it could be.
Right.
Turns out I probably like gouache more than I do watercolor.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
I've
Well,
I've painted a little bit with gouache, but primarily oils. But yeah,
it's
that's cool.
because you don't tend to muddy as much.
All right.
You can overwork watercolor and get muddy. And so that would be so. Um, I like it when I have an idea for textures and it works, and that
Gotcha.
it can, like this toilet paper thing.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
okay. Let's see how we can get it without it being too crumply. I
Right.
wanted to see movement in the water without it being, because I've done things where I've layered paper and
Uh-huh.
rougher paper, and so that's that gives me a lot of satisfaction. But I
Yeah.
am that quick fix. I know that's another reason I don't like oils, because I'm not patient enough to wait to do the next step
Yeah.
when I can do these other ones. Oh, it's richer. It's.
Yeah.
I always
Yeah.
think oil
Yeah.
paintings look
Yeah.
more realistic,
Yeah.
but I
Uh,
can't.
yeah. That's one thing I like about oils. One of the things I like about it is, and I've done this before, is oh, I don't like that, and I take a rag and I just wipe it off. You know. And I've done a little bit with acrylic, and I very little with acrylic, but it dries so fast. And I know you can add things to it to slow the drying process down,
Oh
but
yeah.
but that's one of the things I like about oils. And I just started with oils, and it's maybe like, with you doing watercolor, that's kind of natural for you now.
Mm-hmm.
But I started painting this January, it'd be like 6 years ago. So
In your
yeah.
whole life?
I did some art in junior high school, 8th and 9th grade, and I was pretty good at it. And I got to do a little internship with a Mercer University student, and that was real great. But then I get in high school, and you date, and you could drive in, and all this kind of stuff. And I got married young, my first marriage, and life, and just so busy and everything. And I took some art lessons in the early '80s, and I just at the time I just
What?
couldn't afford to continue
Uh,
because
yeah.
art supplies are so expensive. And then my wife we happened to be in Hobby Lobby back in January of 20, right before, and I was still working full time, and right before they sent us home in March of that year to work from home. and she said, "Hey, I got a gift card. Why don't you buy some art supplies?" And here we are.
See, I love that.
Yeah.
Those are the great stories that
Yeah.
it was there. It wasn't the right season.
Yeah.
I believe there are seasons. So, being able to revisit something that you knew that you had a love for.
Yeah. And it just laid dormant for 40 years, it's there. You just got to have some time to devote to have it resurface and blossom and,
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's kind of cool.
I love that.
Yeah, thanks. Are there any artists that you draw some inspiration from that you really like, that you say, "Oh man, I just love their style. I love how they use color," whatever. So
I'm a big fan of Cezanne.
okay.
He brings a lot of it, and it started from when I was in school.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I didn't continue on with art, I did continue on with French, and so I learned about all. That was part of what we did, was learn about all these wonderful artists there. But as I've gotten older, I like bolder,
Mm-hmm.
not so much like impressionist, because it's so much softer. So I kind of went a little bit more towards abstract type work because it was bolder.
Right.
I felt like they were braver
Mm-hmm.
to do things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that is really tough, because I think I can find beauty in all of it. And there's something that I love about all of it. But as far as inspiration, I'm inspired by all of them. Some of them I'm inspired not by their works, but by their drive.
Okay.
Obviously, Beth is an inspiration to me.
Right.
And her vision is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And Shannon Riddle, his work to me is just amazing. But if I could be somebody, probably Eric Odell is like.
Oh yeah, I love Eric. Yeah,
I want to make.
He's awesome.
Skies like he does.
Yeah.
And they were all really, and Craig Burkhalter, as far as printmaking, all of these people were very, very instrumental, and Micah, of course, in me getting to where I am here.
Right.
So locally, there are these artists, even though a couple of them have moved away, that are just like constantly in my cheerleaders.
Yeah.
They're back there. Every time I think I'm going to give up, somebody like Craig Hamilton says, "Don't do that."
Right.
I'm like, I need to get rid of all this stuff and not do it anymore. And I would be miserable, honestly.
Right.
But it's like, what do I want to do with it now? At this point in my life, what I want to do with it is make a statement.
Okay.
That draw what you love, paint what you love, and make it invoke something in someone. And that doesn't mean that they have to invoke something wonderful. They could go, "Look, I don't like it." Well, tell me why you don't like it. I'm curious.
Yeah.
Because I can learn from that. Why don't you like it?
Exactly.
Especially if you're not an artist. Why don't you like it?
Right.
As someone who observes art.
Right.
So that's important to me. Even my peers and my mentors, I want to know how and why. I love how Casey Trace uses color.
Yeah.
It's just, to me, it's just amazing. She makes it all work, and it just all melds together and pops into something beautiful.
Yeah.
And I love that.
She had a great show, last month or the month before, just recently, at Macon Arts Alliance, Blossoms. And so, yeah.
And it had a story. And that's the thing. If you can tell a story with your work, and you can explain to people why you do what you do, then I think it's important. My thing with trees started out when I was really little. I was a serious tomboy, and I was fascinated by how all of the branches and the limbs, you could lay down and look up, and how they all tangled. and they made these patterns.
Right.
And then the pops of color. You know, my favorite green is not my favorite color, but I love to make green. I love to teach the kids and the adults how to mix all the different tints and shades of green because I think they're just endless.
Oh yeah.
My favorite time of year to see green though is like right at dusk, like in May.
Oh
Like
really?
the very first part of May. And you see all the different lights. And that's a memory I have, being like as young as 4.
Okay.
Laying in the backyard. My mom would take quilts and throw them over the old fashioned um, clotheslines.
Clothesline. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I'd take my rocking chair and my books and my colors and my paper. Now, she was coloring the lines kind of girl, too.
Okay.
I'm not that girl.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I'm not that girl. And I don't even encourage that. You don't have to color in the lines unless that's part of the rules or the
Right.
instructions.
Right.
But so then as I got older, and could ride my bike, there was a little forest area in our neighborhood. Now what it was property just waiting to be built, developed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it was my forest. I was about 10. And so I'd put all those things in the basket of my bike and I would ride out there. And I had my favorite tree, and that's what I did. And I hung out there. When I got my driver's license, I didn't go and hang out with everybody. I went to the cemetery and hung out at the tree
Oh
where my
really?
grandfather was buried.
Oh, okay.
Trees are there's just something about them, how
Yeah.
wise they are, how, I don't know, they speak to me, and I know they
Mm-hmm.
speak to
Mm-hmm.
each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in that they can grow and grow and grow, and they can recover from injuries.
Right.
And there's
Right.
just so much beautiful stuff to me that happens. And they go through all the seasons and
Right.
survive. And so inside of me, it's like, I'm going through all the seasons and
Yeah.
I've survived.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got a little emotional about that.
That's all right. That's all
That,
right.
that is really, trees are just so incredibly,
So powerful. Yeah.
they are. And
Yeah.
so my uncle passed away, committed suicide when he was 22. And I inherited a bunch of his stuff. Had no idea. And he had been drawing all these trees. And did that just pop up on you? Sorry. Um, and they were just like done in ink pen and all these details. I was like, and I was already pretty heavy into drawing, but I didn't get this stuff until later in life.
Right.
And my mom wasn't huge about drawing trees. I mean, she could, but it wasn't really her big
Her
thing.
thing, huh? Yeah.
And so, well, she could draw anything and paint anything. But I had a favorite tree down this road. And I asked my mom, I said, one day I want you to paint this tree for me. I wasn't painting at this point in time. And so she gave it to me for my 43rd birthday, the best that she could remember it. And so since then, I have also painted that tree from
Oh wow.
my memory. So
Right.
I have them
Right.
together.
Right.
But trees they're just really incredible. And I want I paint a lot of what I call naked trees.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's because we go back to that pattern,
Right.
that everything, how intricate it was. And I didn't know what that meant as a little girl. I
Mm-hmm.
just knew that I loved trees and I climbed trees and I fell out of trees. Fell
Mm-hmm.
out of a 3-story treehouse.
Wow.
There again, back at that 10-year-old age.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then eventually trees were just pretty to look at and I didn't climb them anymore.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I got you.
Sorry, I
Wow.
talked too much.
No, no, that's perfectly all right. I mean, if it, yeah, I love that you talk about what you're passionate about, painting. And, for me, it's like, I love the marsh and I love the coast of Georgia. I go down
Mhm.
there, Jekyll, St. Simons, Brunswick area. And
Love it.
I was telling somebody the other day, it's almost like when I'm pulling and driving down the causeway, it's like it's calling out to me, welcome home, you know.
Oh,
And
I feel that way. Yeah.
I just see
St. Simons. I
things.
love St. Simons.
Yeah, I just, Oh, I just feel such at peace and home. And I'm a beach person. We grew up going to the beach every year when I was young, and we camp in Myrtle Beach and spend a week or two there. And my wife is a beach person, thank goodness, because if she was a mountain person, I thought, oh, okay,
No,
it probably wouldn't work.
I can't be landlocked. I need some
Yeah,
water
I
nearby.
need the water. I need the feel of the sun and the breeze and the smells and all that kind of stuff. But I sense that when I go down there to the coast. And
It's something. It's just like as soon as you smell that salt air,
oh
it's just like, oh,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
just a release. I
yeah,
grew up going to the Gulf because we lived in Alabama,
yeah,
but
yeah,
now it's closer to go to St. Simon's. But
yeah.
you just, as soon as you smell that salt water and you hear it,
Oh yeah,
just
yeah. The sounds,
it's it's so
the
cleansing.
various sounds of the wind, the water, the waves. The seagulls, everything.
All of it, and
Yeah.
it's just one magical song. I mean,
It
really,
it
it is.
it kind of transports you, and you may experience this too a little bit, but it kind of transports you in a way to a different feeling, different world. You're kind of
Mhm.
you're out of the hustle and bustle of your everyday life, and you go and we go there to escape and unwind, and we just bask in that and absorb that we're in, and we don't do it as often as we'd like to. We'd love to retire to the coast, we really would, but property values and prices down
It
there
is.
crazy.
Well,
But
it's just about what you think that you can live with. That's our plan
that,
too.
that's right. That's right.
I
Yeah.
wait every year for Thanksgiving now, and it's not for Thanksgiving. I know that's so selfish, but um, we go to Bel Air Beach, which
Okay.
is right below St. Pete and Largo and Clearwater. And I I don't even I get out of the car, I go to the restroom, and I said, I'll be back in a minute. And I cross the street and I go to the beach as soon
Okay.
as I get there.
Good for
And
you.
and if I
Yeah.
didn't have to visit, I wouldn't. I would
Yeah.
just like stay right there.
Yeah.
There's something
Yeah.
about it. I remember the first time I went to the Keys, I was driving, and soon, I'm not a fan of bridges either. So, but
Oh yeah.
it's, yeah, so, but you don't have a choice. But as soon as I got on the other side of Miami and was about to hit the bridge, it's just like, oh, I mean, I felt like I'd lost 25 pounds off my
Yeah.
shoulders.
Yeah. Just that weight just lifted
It's
off.
so cleansing. The
Stress
water.
relieving.
Do you
Yeah.
paint a lot of water?
Do what? Do I
Do you
paint
paint a
water?
lot of water?
I do like to paint water. I do like to paint some beach scenes, and of course the marsh with some water and reflections and stuff like that. So I've tried to move away from that a little bit because my wife said, you've got too many marsh paintings, do something different, which I have. And there's advantages of being married to an artist because she'll look around the house and she says, do you think you could paint? And she'll tell me something because I'm thinking about putting something over the couch, something different. Yeah, sure, I'll paint that for you. But
I
yeah,
get
a
told
lot
that
of
about
shrimp
trees.
boats and different boats and things like that. But I like to paint golf courses too. Augusta National, the
Really?
Masters. We've got several of those that I paint and I've sold. But yeah, so well, do you sell a lot of your artwork, or you do any commission work or anything like
I
that?
do, and I
Okay, tell me
do.
about that. Yeah.
Um, I had a few collectors there for a while before COVID. That was really wonderful. There's one family that owns several pieces, and they own mostly trees and abstracts
Okay.
that they have gotten. Every now and then, I get some really interesting people that ask for things. A lot of times, those are in inks, though. Um, I did a series of alcohol inks where um, I'm I'm blowing the inks around, and you do use that on polyester film, and so it moves so easily. But what
Hmm.
I'm looking for is for it to show me what it wants to be.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
so I did a
Yeah.
series that turned out to be like angels and mermaids and things, and that I sold quite a few of. Um, I And there's a couple of other people that own several pieces, and those are local. As far as away from here, um, not as much as I would like.
Hmm.
And there's only so much that we can do locally.
Right.
We have such a strong art community that competition is fierce.
Oh, it is.
So I
It is.
started doing a lot of prints, and that is easier to sell.
Mm-hmm.
And art is expensive to make,
It is.
and it's expensive to purchase.
That's true.
So I have discovered working smaller sometimes.
Yes.
It took a
Yes.
long time to work big, and now
Yeah.
I'm going small.
Right.
And it can be more difficult to paint small because you're trying to get all these details in these little spaces.
Right.
But trees mainly. I had a great show several years ago. I guess it was probably 2018. And I had Into the Woods, obviously, all trees and all mediums, including wire sculpture. And it's harder for me to do that. I have kind of bad arthritis and my hands don't like it. But anyway, I sold like 60% of that.
Wow.
And so
That's great.
I never wanted to like brand myself, but I've had people say, "Oh, that's a Deonna tree."
Yeah.
So they know it.
Yeah.
So I do, but I do commissions as well, and that is very challenging because
It is.
you're dealing with somebody else's idea of what they
Right.
want you to do.
Right. Right.
I've learned some very valuable lessons with commissions.
Mm-hmm.
I did a really fantastic abstract piece for a colonel when his wife had given him. And she asked, I mean, all the way to all the little tiny arrows, but everything else was abstract. Well, can you go back and do this? No, that's a before you do this part.
Right. Right.
So you just have to be really clear on what they want and show them along the way.
Right.
I have noticed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The thought that popped in my head is almost like building a house. And he says, okay, well, here's the blueprint, go build this house. And then when you say, okay, here's the keys, and he says, well, can you go and add whatever? And said, not now, maybe when we were putting the foundation in, we probably could have done that, but we can't do that now. So, yeah. The commissions have always been, and I've done a few. They're very challenging, because it's like, okay, will they like the finished product? Is it
hard?
Yeah, that's and it kind of smothers or stifles the creativity to a certain degree.
Well, you don't have the same kind of license, I think.
Yeah,
because you're doing what
you're kind of in this box that it has to be what they want. Yeah. So. Yeah.
But it's I'm not against it, but I don't love it as much.
Right.
I've learned to say no a whole lot more in my life.
Yeah.
And that's hard when you're in a newer field later in life.
Right.
Because you want to do the right thing. You want to, not necessarily the right thing, but you hope it's the right thing.
Right. So, right. Yeah. And it's challenging in that you don't want to lose a potential customer too, or client. It's like, well,
you know what though, Victor?
But they may come back later and say, hey, can you paint something else?
But there's other clients where they came from, and you can't
that's
please
right.
everybody all the time.
Yeah.
And
it's just like in sales, you have to go through a lot of no's to get to that yes. And it's the same way with doing paintings, and you probably experience this too. Not every painting is going to turn out to be a great painting. You may paint 10 paintings and 8 out of 10 were maybe you might want to call duds, or they just didn't. But a couple of them, you really knocked it out of the park. Man, these are just great. But you got to go through those. You got to go through that process and be, painting and creating, because you never know what that next painting's going to look like. It might be the one that's just like, man, everything, all 8 cylinders, it's clicking, kind of thing. It all comes together. So, yeah.
Well, and there's only a handful of those that I really feel like that I've done. And I've painted a lot. I have a lot. And fortunately, somebody else thought so too, and they purchased them.
Yeah.
I had a hard time selling one piece because it was a tree, and it was very, very emotional to actually paint the tree, to do everything. It was one of my first larger pieces.
Yeah.
And then when it sold, I was like, I wanted to know where it lived. It was like I was giving a child away. Or is
Right.
it okay? No, I mean,
Right.
that's a little.
We get attached to some of the paintings that we do and the art
But
that we create, you know?
my very, very, very
Yeah.
first large piece, though, is never going anywhere. It's at my home over my
Yeah.
mantle,
Yeah.
and that's where it's going to stay.
Well, good, good. Yeah.
So
I don't blame you one bit. I don't blame you one bit.
it,
What
it
do
it's a big thing.
yeah, what do you see next on the horizon for you?
Well, I'm trying to build up my students again.
Okay.
I do believe that that is part of my purpose, is to encourage creativity. Um, I like working with younger kids.
Uh-huh.
I did teach pre-K for several years. When
Boy, that's a challenge.
I
Boy,
love 4-year-olds
I
and
don't know how you do
5-year-olds.
that, but
And
yeah.
then once I got to a certain age, where I got tired of hearing Miss Deonna, Miss Deonna, Miss Deonna, Miss Deonna, and they have to tap you when they do that.
Uh,
It's a prerequisite, Miss Deonna,
yeah.
Miss Deonna.
Yeah.
So then I got to the point where I wouldn't, when I stopped teaching, um, that was quite a few years before I moved to Macon, but I only would do 7 and up
Okay. Okay.
because I wanted to be able to have their focus and not just do, finger painting or
Right. Right.
turkey hands. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
I always made sure that they had something artistic there. But I like being able to teach in an unconventional way where sometimes they don't realize they're absorbing all of those um, elements of art. I throw them in differently. I try to make sure that they're doing something fun that they love as well. And so then it's in their head, sensory wise, it's always a good feeling when they create. But I've
Right.
also found that it's a great way for them to take out feelings they don't talk about.
Yeah.
And so I don't have the intention to go back and like do art therapy or anything like
Right.
Micah did, which I
Right.
think is amazing.
Right.
But I do think there's ways to fit that in.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell even my students when they come in, "Oh, you've had a bad day today. You don't feel like arting. Well, why don't you show me what it is? You just or don't show me. Just do it in your sketchbook.
Yeah.
Just draw something. Just paint with colors that you feel."
Right.
So as far as I'm concerned, I'm painting for pleasure
Mm-hmm.
and maybe get a couple of more shows in. I've showed a lot,
All right.
um, a few solo shows, but mostly collaboratives.
Mm-hmm.
I like being involved with certain markets, and I'll do my pink poodle.
Okay.
I will, and I will do favorite things, the 5, 6, 7,
Okay.
and do some markets. But I really want to encourage students. I don't care if they're young or if they're revisiting their interest in art. That's really on the horizon for me. And
Okay.
working at CAD has put me back into teaching more specific versus what do you want to do today? How do
Right.
you want to
Right.
create today? Which is
Right.
kind of my Montessori days.
Right.
How are
Right.
we going to add this in? But
Yeah.
not
Uh,
giving up yet.
yeah. Well, don't. I mean, I tell you what, I've really enjoyed talking with you today. I mean, it's just been fabulous. I mean, we got to know each other a little bit better,
And
before
now we'll know
the,
each other on the street.
yeah. And it's a small world, when you think about it. But I've got some random questions. I told you about this earlier, maybe before the interview
Okay.
started. I had some random questions. And we talked about holidays a while ago, but what is your favorite holiday and why?
It has changed over the years.
Okay.
Um, I really like the 4th of July.
Okay.
I've done a lot of things in my life, Victor, and people are like, "Really?" I, I, I like a challenge. I do get bored easily. I, I I was a very precocious child. I'm very curious about things. I ask a lot of questions. I like to learn, but I was a um, licensed pyrotechnician.
Really? My
when I
son
lived
would love you. He loves
when I lived in
fireworks.
when I lived in Florida, and I lived in Central Florida,
Wow.
and I worked for a company called Firelight and Fantasy, and we were part of Zambelli International as freelancers, and that's one of the oldest firework companies in the United States. They're out of New York. So you do ball games, and Fourth of July was like a big to do for me.
Oh, I bet.
But
Yeah.
but you know, I think the reason I like it, it's not just it, I don't talk politics. Um, I'm thankful I live in this country, but I don't talk politics
Right. Right.
ever.
Yeah.
Very, 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 very rarely.
Yeah.
I think it's
That's a
hard.
safe route to take, I think,
You know,
today.
politics and
Yeah.
religion. You know,
Yeah.
everybody has
Those are
their
two
opinion.
no-nos. Yeah.
You 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 feel how you feel, and I respect that.
That's right. That's
And
right. Yeah.
Fourth of July is like reunion time. People are getting together to celebrate, not necessarily celebrate the Fourth of July. They're
Right.
celebrating community.
Yeah.
And so I like that. That's a time of the year where you can go to the lake and see your family or friends maybe you haven't seen in a while. And then all of those wonderful fireworks displays are just beautiful to me, even though I don't do them anymore. And I don't do them anymore because I was out in Reddington Beach on a barge and somebody caught me on fire because we used to hand light them.
Oh, wow.
All I could think of was my kids were on the beach
Yeah.
and mom's going to go up
Yeah.
with
Wow.
the
Good
fireworks.
grief.
Now, granted, it's so much better now, but it for
Yeah.
me, it's just like I don't think I need to do this anymore. So I would still design shows, but I didn't like them anymore.
Right.
But
Right.
I like the Fourth of July. It it just brings me a sense of calming. That's that you probably should have on Labor Day, but for me, that's where I
Yeah.
feel on the Fourth.
I like that. My favorite holiday, I think, is Christmas. But then when you mentioned 4th of July and you started talking about getting together and friends and family and all, I remember as a young kid, when we were living back in Bristol where I was born and grew up for, several years, but we'd travel back up there and always at my grandparents, my dad's brother and his family. It's all really my dad's side of the family. We'd all to get together at their trailer park, my grandparents, and we had the long tables set
Right.
up and we'd all eat and have the watermelon. And I have fond memories of that, it's just, and then I'm patriotic too. And so, I do the patriotic stuff, at ball games and love
Right,
listening
ball
to the
games,
national anthem and the fireworks and all that kind of
going to
stuff. So,
Stone Mountain.
yeah, I
Um,
appreciate you sharing that. So, the second question I have for you, if you could be a cartoon character, who would you be and why? Just
okay.
throwing some random stuff at you. So, make you think a little bit.
Okay, so I'm not a big fan of cartoons.
Okay.
The old school ones, like when we were kids,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
those were
Those are the classic. Those are the best, way back in the 60s and 70s cartoons.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
If you
once
don't have
upon
an answer, that's fine. But
well, no, once upon a time I would have said Judy Jetson, and I actually dressed up for her
oh,
and
really?
kept her for Halloween one year, um, with a coat hanger in my hair and everything to make it stand out. But I am my family calls me Eeyore, not because I'm woe is me, just
Yeah.
because I always wanted to cheer him up. So I mean, like my son gave me Eeyore everything.
Really?
I like Winnie the Pooh and all of the characters.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
if you take
Yeah.
each character from Winnie the Pooh and you put them together, you have the perfect character.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have the heart, you have the energy, you have the sweetness, you have the cynical part of Rabbit.
Right.
You have the problem solver with
Yeah.
Gopher, and you
Yeah.
have Wise Owl. I mean, you have all of those.
I
So
love that.
Winnie
I've
the
never
Pooh is
really
my
thought
thing.
about that, but you're so right. So
Winnie
spot
the
on.
Pooh is
Yeah.
truly my thing. I think
Yeah.
the perfect group of cartoon characters. I couldn't pick just one. I love.
No, I love that. Yeah. Okay. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
I think I would like X-ray vision.
There you go. Okay.
I really do, because I could use it for more than one thing. You know,
Yeah.
you could use that as a healing power. You could use that to see through something else. You know, not just, I mean, I'd like X-ray vision. I'm going to
Yeah.
stay with Superman. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. You talked about green, the color green earlier, and you said that's not your favorite color. And I'm glad you didn't say what your favorite color is, because that's your next question. What's your favorite color?
Well, it also changes, but the bulk of my life, my favorite color is purple.
Purple.
When I was a
Okay.
senior, every piece of my wardrobe, including belts and purses, sweaters, shirts,
Purple.
jeans, purple.
Yeah.
Everything was purple. Prom
Okay.
dress, graduation announcements, and our school colors were not purple.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
How
purple.
about that? That's
I
great.
like
That's,
orange and aqua too, though.
yeah. If you had unlimited resources, describe for me what your ultimate fantasy studio would look like.
Oh, golly. It would be all windows.
Okay.
So I could have
All the natural light. Mm-hmm.
from all the different times of the day.
Yeah.
I could have the golden hour. I could have, I could have all of it.
Yeah.
Oh, storm clouds. Could you imagine? So
Wow.
all windows. It would have all different places that you could sit. Although I stand a lot to paint.
Me too. Yeah.
But all different types of nooks and crannies where you could have different projects going on.
Right.
Remember, I told you I get bored and lots of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the biggest thing would be all windows. It would be
Okay.
big. It'd be
Yeah.
tall and wide. I don't know, long, not wide. I think I would like something very long, not
Okay.
super narrow.
Yeah.
I think that would make me feel closer to being outside. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. It does. It
Yeah.
does.
So
Yeah. Okay.
maybe it does.
Yeah. Have you seen Eric Odell's studio there on Cherry Street?
I have yet to go upstairs to see it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I did a video on it.
Oh, I
So
haven't
look on YouTube. Yeah. Art Stories of
all
Middle
the time.
Georgia.
We tried to,
Yeah.
I need to go to Liberty Hall, but it
Yeah.
just hasn't happened yet. Now, though, back when we were on Mulberry Street, I wasn't there, but all those studios I loved.
Right.
I ran my first solo show, and it was because of Odell and David Sutton.
Okay.
They
Okay.
made sure that I had my first solo show.
Awesome.
They're great.
Yeah. I did an interview with Eric, and then we got to talk a little bit about his art studio, and he invited me to come down, and I did a little video and tour of that, and I just loved his setup, and think about, well, what my fantasy art studio would be very similar to his, because he had an area at the very other end, which was kind of, I call it his lounge, because he had a couch and some chairs, some books, and if you wanted to watch a movie or something, just relax and chill out, and take a nap if you wanted to, but then you had the huge space to create art. And then he also does some, he would build some stretcher bars and stretch canvas. So he had like a little workshop section too, and storage and all that. But yeah, it's great. So if you ever get the opportunity, check it out.
We're
So
one day, life sometimes gets in our way.
Oh, I know.
Time.
Yeah. Any parting words that you'd like to share as we wrap up here today?
I love for people to become a little bit more familiar with CAD, which is Cornerstone Academy for Art and Design.
Right.
It's been a little secret, and we need for it to get out there and be kind of the talk of the town. We're hoping that eventually we'll get accredited.
Yes.
And make a major difference. So in people coming to actually study fine art with us.
Right.
And so you have this wide variety. You can start out with simple basics with me. You can do figure drawing with Craig Hamilton. You can do advanced oil paintings. in drawing with Beth Smith, who is the owner and founder. You can do 3D work, some hand building and macrame, all kinds of really cool stuff with casting.
Right.
So we just have a lot of things to offer. And if we don't offer it, then, maybe we'll find somebody else to come in and do that. But
Yeah.
I would like to have people come and visit us. You can go to our website, which is, Cornerstone Academy of Art and Design, CAD.
Great.
AD.
Thank you so much, Deonna. I appreciate you being on the podcast today. And thanks everybody for tuning in to this episode. Please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, check back later, more content's coming out, and just a great show today with our special guest, and wish you the best, and take care everybody, and we'll catch you in the next podcast.
Thanks, Victor.